Zombie games shouldn't still work in 2025. The genre is crowded. You've seen the shambling hordes 100 times. But the best titles still squeeze your pulse, still make you lean forward, still give you stories you can't get anywhere else. Some do it with wild systems, some do it with pure chaos, some do it with a single perfect moment where you realize you shouldn't have opened that door. Tonight we're picking the 20 you shouldn't miss, whether you want mastery, mayhem, or the misery of survival the way it probably would be. Let's start with the games that clawed their way back from the past and somehow feel sharper now. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster looks like your memory of the original, only better. The Maul is still a toy box that lets you turn anything into a weapon, and the ticking clock still pushes you to make hard calls. That pressure makes every rescue and every shortcut feel earned. If you bounced off it years ago, the cleaner visuals and performance do just enough to smooth the edges without sanding away the identity. It's the same loud, goofy, vicious sandbox, now easier to revisit and harder to put down. Red Dead Redemption, Undead Nightmare remains one of the strangest, most confident detours a big studio ever took. Cowboys and cursed towns shouldn't work, yet this alternate frontier does. You ride out into a west that's collapsing by the minute, saving homesteads that might not make it through the night. It's playful without losing bite. The guns still crack. The jokes still land. The mood flips from absurd to eerie as fast as a lantern going out. And now that it runs on modern machines, it finally feels like the campfire story it was always meant to be. Of course, some of you don't want mood. You want blood, noise, and a lobby full of friends who promise they'll watch your back and absolutely will not. A co-op horde is where those friendships go to get tested. If you want a labyrinth of secrets, Call of Duty, Black Ops 3 Zombies is still the deep end. It's not just waves, it's rituals, hidden steps, boss moments, and the satisfaction of doing the impossible with a squad that barely holds it together. The best maps feel like self-contained puzzle boxes that twist while you're inside them. When you finally execute a plan under pressure, it's magic. If you want something modern and mean, Killing Floor 3 is the fresh cut. It's 6 players, bad odds, and enemy types designed to break your formation the moment it slips. Weapons punch hard, movement matters, the Zeds are fast and rude. You mod your kit, cover lanes, and pray your demo doesn't blow the team at the worst possible second. It's less about a quest and more about that white knuckle minute where everything is down to the wire and you scrape out a win with 5 health and a half-empty mag. If you prefer the older meta, Killing Floor 2 is still there and still excellent, but 3 brings that new toy momentum that keeps a Discord busy for weeks. And then there are the big maps, the places where you don't just fight, you travel. You learn the roads. You get attached to a safe house and keep returning to it like it's home. Dying Light remains the purest movement-first zombie game. It nails the feeling of parkour under pressure. A rooftop dash becomes a life-or-death sprint when the sun drops and the things that live in the dark come out to hunt. Combat is positional. Kicks send bodies over rails. Timing matters. It's go where they can't as a survival plan, and it never gets old. Days Gone is slower, but when it hits hard. 1 minute it's quiet highway and open country. The next, a living carpet of infected is chasing you through a broken mill and you're throwing fire and traps in every last bullet you saved for later. Hordes in this game aren't just enemies, they're moving puzzles. You scout, plan, and improvise when it all falls apart. The bite keeps the world feeling big. The horde keeps it feeling dangerous. That combination is why people came back to it and changed their minds. Dead Island 2 goes the other way. It's a sunburned playground where the physics and dismemberment system are the star of the show. Nothing subtle here. It's about giggling like a gremlin because the toy you just found turns a hallway into a blender. The expansions add new zones, new toys, and new ways to break the rules of a zombie's body. If you want story, look elsewhere. If you want to log off with sore cheeks because you were laughing at the chaos, this is the one. But the apocalypse isn't always loud. Sometimes it's mass. Sometimes it's a calendar where every day you survive feels stolen. Project Zomboid is the most how it would go of all of the one mistake matters, one scratch matters. You start thinking about food in terms of weeks, not minutes. Water becomes a plan, not a tap. The first hours are terrifying. The mid-game becomes a routine you carve out with care. Then something goes wrong. It usually does. The systems are honest and unforgiving, and that's why the stories that come out of Zomboid feel like real history instead of game runs. You don't beat it, you last. State of Decay 2 sits between that harshness and the power fantasy. You're not a single hero, you're a community with names, traits, moods, and needs. You build a base that actually matters. You argue with neighbors. You run night raids for fuel and come home with a survivor who doesn't say much after. The combat isn't as slick as a pure shooter, but the stakes are personal. Losing someone in this game stings because you remember who they were when they got back to camp and put their backpack down. It's a management sim that makes you feel every success and every screw up. Not every pick is grim, and sometimes the best palate cleansers are the weird ones. Typing of the dead. Overkill is House of the Dead with a keyboard. You type to kill. It's dumb in a perfect way. The faster you get, the funnier it becomes, because your brain switches from read phrase, type phrase, to obliterate everything while laughing. Plants vs. Zombies is the opposite kind of simple. It starts cute and ends up in that one more level loop where time disappears. It's approachable, readable, and satisfying in 5-minute bursts that feel good between heavier games. Stubbs the Zombie flips the fantasy on its head. You're the monster. You build the horde by biting first, asking questions never. It's janky and proud, a relic with personality to spare, and it still has moments no other game attempts. Oregon Trail is another oddball that charms by how straightforward it is. Oregon Trail with a hatchback, a weird sense of humor, and just enough tension to make every resource decision matter. When the heavy stuff gets too heavy, these 4 reset your brain without wasting your time. Back to the classics. Resident Evil 2 Remake didn't just dust off a legend, it retaught an entire audience why slow, deliberate zombie horror works. You feel the weight of every step. You feel the panic of a door you can't quite open. The zombies aren't just targets, they're problems to solve. The layout becomes a map in your head. The controls melt away, and all that's left is the quiet dread of another hallway you've walked a dozen times that still finds a way to surprise you. That's design. That's respect for the source without copying it beat for beat. Left 4 Dead 2 is the co-op game that refuses to die. The pacing, the crescendo, the way the AI director shifts pressure from angle to angle until your team is either a machine or a smoking crater. Everyone has a favorite map and a story about the time it all collapsed in a ridiculous, spectacular way 30 seconds from the safe room. It's not flashy anymore. It doesn't need to be. It's still the gold standard for how to make 4 people yell in unison and still laugh 5 minutes later. World War Z Aftermath took the Swarm idea and pushed it until the screen became a moving wall. It's crowd tech that feels like physics. Hordes pour down stairs, flood corridors, and force ugly decisions. If you don't have the patience for the puzzle-like zombies mode or the precision of a killing floor match, this sits between them. More objective-driven than pure survival, more strategic than simple shooting, and a dependable way to turn an evening into one more run. The Walking Dead by Telltale barely counts as a zombie game if you think in mechanics, but if you think in terms of impact, it's essential. It made players cry without a single massive set piece. It turned dialogue into a weapon and a wound. It proved the end of the world isn't just about guts, it's about choices you live with. The action is minimal, the memory isn't. If you've never played it or you only watched clips, give it your time. It rewards attention with moments that stay. Dying Light 2 belongs here for a simple reason: vertical freedom. It grew the first game's movement into something bigger and stranger. The city is a climbing puzzle. Choices matter more. Combat is still about position and momentum, but the routes multiply. Some prefer the first game's balance. Fair. But when DL2 clicks, the distance between rooftop and safety becomes a story you tell yourself while you run, and that's special. We've got 3 more to round out the 20, and each earns its place for a different reason. Days Gone we already touched. Its horde design is that good. Dead Island 2 we covered. Its gore tech is that ridiculous. The last slot is for a game that's older than most of these, but still the easiest on-ramp for a lot of players. Resident Evil HD Remaster. It's the mansion. It's the pacing. It's the Crimson Heads teaching you that dead doesn't always mean done. It's the blueprint for slow horror, and the reason so many games after it learned to respect space, light, and silence. If you've never tried it, do. It's a museum piece that still scares. Now let's talk about how to pick, because not every zombie craving is the same. If you've got a crew in 2 hours, go for Killing Floor 3 or World War Z. Aftermath, they're quick to learn, harder to master, and they'll give you a clean arc every session. If you want to get lost for a month, it's Project Zomboid. Set your own goals, build a life, see how long you can keep it. If you want polish and modern controls with classic fear, Resident Evil 2 Remake is the most dependable bet. For chaos and laughs, Dead Island 2 will do unholy things to your definition of satisfying hit. For a single player who wants a world that breathes, Dying Light, either one, will keep you moving and keep you honest. There's also a question of tone. Some nights you want camp and color. Plants vs. Zombies and Typing of the Dead are perfect sorbets when the heavy games burn you out. Some nights you want story that hurts a little. The Walking Dead will hand you choices that feel like waste. Some nights you want nostalgia sharpened by modern tech. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster and Undead Nightmare scratch that itch without feeling like chores. The best part is you don't have to pick a single lane. The genre's variety is the point. The good ones aren't just another zombie thing, they each commit to a different fantasy of how the end might feel. You'll notice what's missing. That's on purpose. Not every classic ages well. Not every blockbuster respects your time. The 20 here earn their spot by giving you a sensation you'll remember next week. Parkour that matters. A base that feels like home. A puzzle you solve with bullets and panic. A horde that isn't a number, it's a problem. The through line is simple. Each of these answers why another zombie game with something more than marketing. They've got mechanics, mood, or momentum that still hit. If you're building a playlist, here's a clean way in. Start with something immediate to shake off the day. 2 runs of Killing Floor 3 or a quick gauntlet in Left 4 Dead 2. Switch gears to a story, 1 chapter of The Walking Dead, or a loop of Resident Evil 2 that gets you past a door you've been dreading. Save the slow burn for the weekend. The only question left is simple. Which one are you brave enough to install first?